For me, it's going to look a lot like an end. I mean, justice doesn't have a room where you can read books and you can go to school and you can have, 3 meals and you can have your vegan diet. To me, that's not justice. Justice is when you leave the planet and the whole world is able to rejoice and be glad that you are not there. That's justice.
Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies starts now.
Hi guys, it's so great to see you. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining me today on Reporter Room. We have a lot to get into. We're going to be talking about the Idaho 4 case. Let's get started. We're going to discuss where Bryan went the afternoon and evening of December 13th. Is this when he disposed of this missing knife? We're also going to discuss the bizarre route that Bryan and his dad made on the way from Pullman, Washington to Albright, Pennsylvania. They made a 6 to 7 hour detour. Why? We know, according to the affidavit, that Bryan returned to 1122 King Road around 9 a.m. on the morning of December 13th. There's been a lot of speculation about whether he returned back to the crime scene to look for the knife sheath, or if he returned in hopes of seeing law enforcement descending on the home. Kaylee's sister Olivia felt Bryan went back to admire the, quote, circus he created. But let's talk about where Bryan's cell phone pings, because it shows where Bryan went later on in the day. And I'm going to talk about that detour that Bryan and his dad made on their road trip in just a moment, so please stay with me. Did Bryan go to a national park to dispose of the knife? Bryan went to 1122 King Road around 9 a.m. We know this. He returned from Idaho back to Pullman, Washington. It looks like he got some coffee, went to Albertsons. However, in the same affidavit, Bryan's phone pings again in Idaho. So what's going on? Because then his phone shuts off again. And this was for around 3 hours. Why? Was Bryan going back to the crime scene to see if law enforcement had been called and to enjoy the mayhem he created allegedly? Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Or was there something else going on? Because this time Bryan's phone doesn't ping in Moscow. His phone pings in Johnson, Idaho at 5:36 p.m. Then his phone is switched off or put into airplane mode, and it doesn't come back on for nearly 3 hours. It turns back on around 8:30 p.m., still on December 13th. And credit to Annie Elise for discovering this. So what was going on? Idaho is next to the Nez Perce Clearwater National Forest. Is this where Bryan disposed of the knife and possibly his clothing? So let's talk about Bryan and Michael Kohberger and their rerouted trip from Pullman, Washington back to Bryan's parents' home in Albright, Pennsylvania. Why tack on an additional 6 to 7 hours on an already long drive? And I'm going to discuss 2 important theories on this drive with you in just a moment, so please stay with me. Everything I'm sharing with you is my opinion, and opinions are not facts, so please don't send any negativity to anyone. Let's be kind to each other. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only, so please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up so I know you were here. So law enforcement did not have enough evidence to secure an arrest warrant by the time Bryan and his dad both left Pullman, Washington for the holidays. The FBI made plans to surveil both of them until they gathered enough evidence. The exact date Bryan and his father left Pullman has not been disclosed by authorities, so I'm only able to give you estimated dates. However, law enforcement who were surveilling Bryan allegedly lost Bryan and his dad for several hours during this cross-country trip. Now, the FBI is denying that this ever occurred, so I will leave it to you to decide what you think really happened here. Either way, we know that Bryan and his dad chose to take an indirect route home, one that Michael would later make 2 different claims about. What do you guys think? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Either way, we do know that Bryan and his father chose to take an indirect route home. One, that his 67-year-old dad, Michael, would later tell a friend this seemed to make little sense. Now, according to a mechanic, Bryan's dad told him that they did it due to the weather conditions. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy here, because was this rerouting due to weather, or did Bryan's dad really not understand why they rerouted this trip, adding 6 to 7 hours to it? So let's take a look at the most direct route from Pullman to Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. It does make me wonder if Bryan suspected that he was being watched by authorities and tried to throw law enforcement off the trail by taking another route. Another theory is that this route was to dispose of additional evidence. What do you think? So this detour added around 6 to 7 hours to their drive time. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. And to be clear, Bryan's dad flew from his home with his wife in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, all the way to Pullman, Washington, in order to be with Bryan for this lengthy car ride home for the holidays. Now, was this their normal? Did he always drive home with Bryan, or was this something unusual? Because I don't understand why a 28-year-old would need to be accompanied. Now, Bryan's dad is not a suspect in any of this, and even Bryan is innocent until proven guilty, and he has not had his day in court. But a lot of people are wondering, why did they take this route? Now, Bryan was arrested on December 30th at his parents' home. He was extradited to Moscow, Idaho on murder charges, and we know they made this trip sometime between December 12th and December 16th. Now, the most likely reason, in my opinion, would have been to avoid heavy snow and potential blizzard conditions. And I guess it just depends on which day they actually left. And court documents don't tell us what day the Kohbergers left Bryan's apartment in Pullman, Washington. Were Bryan and his father simply worried about the snow? Their car that they were driving, Bryan's car, was a 2015 Hyundai. So I don't know. The car is not even 10 years old. And I'm going to talk about BTK in just a moment, so please stay with me. To me, it just seems like they could have easily driven this car home. Dennis Rader has expressed sympathy for Bryan as he awaits his trial in Idaho, and I think this is just rich. Rader, who titled himself as the BTK killer because of what he did to his victims, is serving 10 consecutive life sentences. Rader said he understands how Bryan must feel in solitary confinement. He said, quote, "I have spent from February 2005 to April 2005 in a cell by myself. I know how he feels, very lonely." And to that, I just say that the victims' families, Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, and Maddie, they don't get to even talk to their loved ones. So I don't have a lot of sympathy for Bryan Kohberger. Please let me know what you're thinking about this in the comment section below. Subscribe.